Right, Beth, hello. To start the ball rolling, thank you very much for coming this evening. I don't suppose you've ever sat in such an august group of people, being insurance broking professionals from all over the country. They're wonderful. Honestly, some of them are almost human. So you're pretty good at gymnastics. So can you just start by telling us how many medals you've won and where and the sorts of things that you've got? In fact, you've got some there. We'll show you later. But anyway, you start the ball rolling by telling us what you've won.
Put me on the spot.
Yep.
I've
got it written here in case you've forgotten.
You might be better reading them. I've won 3 world titles, 6 European, 1 Commonwealth, and 7 senior national titles.
Well, actually, it's also more than that because you were 3rd in the Sports Personality of the Year Awards in 2006. So what was it like to be compared to your peers at that particular event?
That was a really strange evening. I mean, I won the world title for the first time in 2006, and that was just a night that I couldn't forget. I mean, I'd always come 3rd, and people were like, "Oh, you'll get there, it'll be your turn," and you kind of want to believe it, but you don't think you'll ever actually be on the top of the podium. So when that night actually came, everyone asked, what's it like to stand on the podium? And all I can remember is thinking, shall I sing or shall I just stand here? So I just stood there. And my coach was the first one to be in tears. My parents were in tears, and I think I was the only one who wasn't in tears. That night I went to bed about 3 o'clock that morning, and then my phone woke me up at 5 saying, can we have interviews? So I was like, are you for real? It's 5 o'clock in the morning, let me sleep. And they basically wanted to say you're tipped to be Sports Personality of the Year, and obviously for a gymnast that was a massive thing. We'd never even had a nomination in the top 3 or top 10 as they changed it to. So we went to that event, and BBC kept ringing my coach saying, can she do a display on the night? My coach was quite reluctant because I had the World Cup final 2 days later, so she kept saying, no, it's fine, we'll leave her just sat there in the audience. But BBC were quite persistent and eventually got me to perform on the night. I don't know whether any of you saw it. I wore the most ridiculous outfit. Black tie. It had always been black tie at BBC until that first year that I decided to show up in a black tie leotard, and for the first time ever it wasn't black tie. So I'm doing a bar routine and knowing that if I fell sideways I'd be in Alan Shearer's lap or Gary Lineker's face, so it was kind of a bit nerve-wracking doing that. And then I did that performance, went backstage, I was allowed to put my party frock back on, and then sat down, and my coach is under the table voting for me 24/7 on her phone. And then suddenly they announced me as 3rd, and it was kind of, I didn't know what to do. It was back to that world's sort of stage. Do I get up? Do I move? And then eventually sort of Sue Barker sort of ushered me to come up to the stage and collect my trophy.
And you've you were awarded an MBE. Now that must have been a massive thrill for you.
Yeah, a lot of people thought I'd get it after 2006, but it never sort of appeared. And then I think a lot of people thought I'd get it when I finally retired because I've been around for so long. And then I won the world title in 2009 in the O2 Arena, and it was about 4 weeks after that I got a letter, and it was actually my mum phoned me. I don't live at home now. Most of my post comes to my house, but my mum phoned me basically saying, you've got a letter, can I open it? And normally she just forwards it without asking me, so I was like, yeah, whatever, go ahead. So she suddenly starts screaming down the phone at me, and I'm like, okay, can you share the joke? What's going on? And eventually she calmed herself down and said, you've been awarded an MBE, but you can't tell anyone until the 31st of December. So I was kind of like, so I've got to keep my mouth shut for 2 months. So the only people I told was my mum, well, she told me, my dad and my brother. And then at the Christmas of that year, I told my gran and my nan because I didn't want them to find out through the papers. And it was only when I told them I realised how much of a big thing it was, because they started crying and said how much it meant to them. And then when I went to pick it up, I was the youngest in the room by about 20 years, so I felt quite young there, which makes a change. I'm usually the oldest in the room.
I suppose you feel quite young this evening as well, being with us lot. But why what attracted you to gymnastics, and at what age did you think, yeah, I could be good at this and I want to be a competitor?
From basically the moment I was born into a sporty family. It was actually hockey, so I grew up with a hockey stick in my hand, but I soon decided it was far too cold to be outside, so most weekends I was at the hockey club, but I'd be with my roller skates on indoors getting under people's feet. I tried horse riding, tried ballet, didn't like the frilly tutus, I was very much a tomboy. Tried lots of different sports, and my dad's friends knew that they were struggling to get me to sleep at night because I just had too much energy. Said, why don't you bring her along to gymnastics? So I went along and I absolutely hated it. I used to lock myself in my bedroom. I soon realised that if I was naughty, the punishment was not to go to gymnastics. So my mum and dad soon clicked on that's why I was a lot more naughty. So they started to take that punishment away, and it was only when I did my first competition that they kind of realised, well, I realised that that's where I wanted to be.
So how old were you when you did your first competition?
I started training when I was 7, and I did my first competition when I was about 8, I think.
And did you win it?
No.
But did you think, yeah, I want to start winning?
I was a very shy child, and then suddenly when I went onto the competition floor, I came out of my shell, and my coach went up to my parents and basically said, where's that shy child come? She's a totally different person out there. So I just loved showing off, basically.
And at what point did you think you were good enough to compete for Great Britain?
To be honest, I don't remember the transition from doing it because I love doing it to doing it for sort of a career. I moved to the club that I'm at, Liverpool now, when I was 12. I'd always been top 6 in the country up until I was about 12, and then I dropped right down to 50th, and obviously my parents kind of wondered what happened in 12 months to go from 6th to 50th. So they spoke to my coach, and he basically said, I've done what I can do for her. You need to move to the bigger, better club. So he suggested 2 clubs, but basically pushed me towards Liverpool, to Amanda, who's my coach now. She was the current national senior coach. She had been to an Olympics herself, and he just said, if she can do anything, then that's the person that will help her do it. And
is it fun? Is it as good as we all think, as spectators, we think it would be fantastic to go?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Olympics is every athlete's dream. You get 4 years preparation for it. So quite a lot of the athletes let loose after the Olympics. So the Olympic Village after the Games is just one big party. Most people are usually interested in the village because I think they think it's all dedication, focus, which usually for the first week of the competition it is quite silent and quite focused. You get the odd few that their only dream is to be in Olympics. So there's all-night discos going on, there's arcades, there's internet, there's the food hall, which is about 2 football sizes big, 24 hours a day, every day.
So how do you train for the different disciplines?
Up until Beijing, I did all 4 apparatus, and basically you just split your time equally between the 4. After Beijing, I was planning on retiring in 2009, so I made the conscious decision to move down to just floor and bars, and that was with the full support of the national system. My results only got better and better that year, so I made the decision to carry on with the support of the national team, because normally you're not allowed to just do 2 apparatus, you have to do all 4. But because I'd made a name for myself on those pieces, I was a specialist, they kind of allowed it. But I seem to spend just as much time in the gym. I still do a bit of vault now, but I don't touch the beam.
Obviously, 2012 is just around the corner, and we're all sort of rooting for you to win a medal of one colour or another. How does it feel to be having an Olympic Games on your doorstep, and what added pressure is it bringing to you? Are there lots of idiots like me saying go for gold, Beth, and all that sort of stuff?
Everyone's saying exactly the same thing, go for gold, bring home gold, but it's nice to know that everyone's supporting you. I mean, like I was saying earlier, every athlete's dream, if your sport is an Olympic sport, that's your once sort of in a lifetime opportunity. I've been lucky that I'm having a third chance at going. But for most gymnasts, it is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
You've just come back from the World Championships. How did they go? And are you happy with where you are in relation to your preparations for next year?
Yeah, this World Championships was one of the most pressurised because they'd changed the way that we had to qualify for the Olympics. Normally you have to finish in top 12 teams, and they'd put it down to the top 8 so that they could use the test event as a proper competition. Luckily, we just scraped in at 8th place by 0.4 or something, so we've managed to get that Olympic spot. On a personal note, the routines were okay, but I've got room to improve ready for next year.
Post-Olympics, what's presumably going to retire? You've been in international now for 10 years. You're pretty old for a gymnast. She was saying that she's Beth is 26, and the next youngest in the team is 21, but acts like a 19-year-old. So you're a bit of an old girl, really,
Don't
aren't you?
quote me on that.
No. So what are you going to do after the Olympics?
I've got a place at university to do physiotherapy, which I've wanted to do since I was younger. Just obviously with my training schedule, I've never had the chance. I've also got a company, Total Gymnastics, that works basically on recreational gymnastics. I just find that there's too many waiting lists in gymnastic clubs around the country, so I've set up in leisure centres, in schools, just to give every child an opportunity to have a go at gymnastics. They might love it, they might hate it, but at least they've had a go at it.
Fantastic. And just one final question on that score is who your insurance brokers for the academies?
It does actually happen to be Perkins Slade.
Beth, I have to say that it's been an absolute thrill to meet you this evening. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. You are a lovely girl. It's been a pleasure to meet someone who is such an accomplished world sporting superstar, and I mean that genuinely. You know, to have won 20 major international medals is a huge achievement for anybody. Think carefully about any British sports person that has won as many medals as Beth had, in particular 3 World Championship medals. I hope and believe you'll have a wonderful Olympics next year in London. I really hope you'll get a gold medal, and on behalf of everybody here tonight, thank you so much for coming and gracing the UNITAS meeting, and enjoy your gymnastics for the next few months. Go out on a high and have a great life after that. Thank you very much indeed.